Hans Selye was one of the early researchers on the biological effects of serotonin. That was where one of the first places I started running across it. Aldous Huxley was another person that got me interested in its variety of effects.
So when we talk about serotonin, most of the Western research, allopathic research, and, most of what people, when they refer to serotonin, they talk about it as a brain chemical. Where do you find, most of the serotonin in the body? Where is it produced, and what is its main functions?
It's 95% of it roughly is produced in the intestine, and the biggest concentration in the digestive system is in or around the appendix. And part of how I got interested in the whole pattern of thyroid, estrogen, serotonin, and so on was that when I was about 9 years old, I started becoming nearsighted, and I occasionally had migraine headaches. And I noticed that things that I ate would tend to bring on the headaches. And there were a couple of girls in my school class who were also nearsighted, and I learned that one of them had migraine headaches, and so I started looking at nearsighted people, and over the next few years I saw that nearsightedness was much more common among girls, especially starting around puberty, and several of the nearsighted girls that I knew had migraines, and so I started thinking about what I had in common with girls in puberty, and it was the thyroid question. Estrogen and serotonin happen to be anti-thyroid factors. And so if you're on the borderline for thyroid function, then you're very susceptible to excesses and imbalances in estrogen and serotonin. The research was just barely starting. I got interested in the symptoms before the substance was identified. The ergot, a fungal disease of grains, was used for probably thousands of years to induce abortions. And in the 19th century, it was attempts were made to use it to accelerate labor, but it was fairly dangerous and would sometimes kill both the mother. Causes spasms not only in the uterus but in the blood vessels. And when people were poisoned by this ergot fungus, they would develop gangrene and insanity, nausea, vomiting, just about every unpleasant symptom you could think of. In the early 1900s, people were starting to study the chemistry of the ergot fungus, and histamine was the first thing they identified that caused muscular spasms and would accelerate either miscarriage or abortion or normal delivery. And for about 20 years, histamine was of considerable interest and led to the development of antihistamines. But in the 1920s and 30s, continuing study of ergot turned up several, a dozen different categories of amines that several of them would cause muscle spasms the same way histamine does. And studying ergot was what Hoffman at Sandoz was working on when he accidentally discovered the nervous properties of LSD, and that led to a whole further development of chemicals for treating problems with the uterus and circulatory problems and hormonal problems. But at first, the connection with bodily functions wasn't understood. An Italian in the 30s had identified an amine in the intestine that caused intestinal contractions. And about 10 years later, some English studying huge amounts of beef blood found another amine, they thought, that caused blood vessel contraction. And then the Italian showed that that was the same thing he had found much more abundantly in the intestine, thousands of times more concentrated. And the English group wanted to learn how to assay it because they were thinking about it as the cause of hypertension, strokes, blood clotting, and so on. So they gave it to someone to try to identify a sensitive assay to measure the amount in a person rather than having to extract it from tons of cow blood. And the person that they gave it to try to develop an assay happened to have experienced Sandoz's LSD and knew about its mental effects. And he was working on the assay, finding that the serotonin extracted from the blood would cause uterine contractions, blood vessel contractions, all smooth muscles. And since he knew the chemistry, it was an amine parallel to some of the things in ergot. He wondered if the effect of LSD was by having the same antagonistic effects that he saw the LSD had on the serotonin. Serotonin would block the contraction of the uterus. LSD would block the serotonin-induced contraction of the uterus or of the blood vessel or of the intestine. Serotonin would block the kidney function so that no urine was produced. LSD would restore kidney function. So since he saw straight across antagonism between LSD and serotonin, he proposed that the brain contains a small amount of serotonin and that LSD is having its effects by antagonizing this small amount of serotonin in the brain.
So we should all take a little dose of LSD every day to be anti-inflammatory and downregulate serotonin.
There's a new interest in LSD as a protective chemical. They're finding that it prevents nerve damage caused by some of the serotonergic excitotoxic chemicals, and they're even proposing it as an antipsychotic treatment given in the right doses.
Interesting. Huh. Well, maybe by the time I get to a nursing home, they'll have that figured out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The disease called carcinoid was just being understood at the same time in the 1950s, and this turned out to be the result of a tumor in the intestine, especially in the appendix, producing huge amounts of serotonin. And normally the lungs destroy the serotonin as it's picked up in the bloodstream. And en route to the lungs, that means that the blood rich in serotonin passes through the right side of the heart before it's detoxified. And these people were found to have disease of the right side of the heart, the valves in the right side of the heart, and they would develop pulmonary artery hypertension. And several of the problems associated with the carcinoid disease included psychosis and a belligerent, aggressive attitude, and diarrhea, nausea, and lots of other symptoms, clotting, fibrosis, overdevelopment of collagen systems. And that was well established as the effect of overproduction of serotonin. So everyone at that time was thinking about the great possibilities of antagonists to serotonin. And by 1960, people were already proposing LSD to cure or prevent migraine headaches and a variety of other things associated with excess serotonin. But then strange things happened all through medical research. The government came out banning research on LSD, and someone developed the idea that since LSD was an antagonist of serotonin, and the reason for banning LSD was that supposedly it made people insane. Therefore, the great publicity was that if LSD, by antagonizing serotonin, makes you insane, then serotonin must make you sane. That really just spread like a plague through the national culture, and that seems to be about the extent of the reasoning behind all of this stuff that you now find everywhere in the internet, television, newspapers, and so on, that serotonin is the happy drug.
Right.